Hi everyone, back again with another episode. And yeah, I actually just discovered a really cool feature on this app, like this app I'm using for screen recording, and that is the ability to kind of follow my cursor. So, meaning you can see both of my screens whenever I'm focused on any window on those screens, which is cool. So, yeah, in this video, we want to start looking at automated testing in Fedas.js by trying to kind of write, unit tests for our authentication flow. And to do this, I wanted to kind of first walk us through like what Fedas.js has to say about it in their docs because they have something standard to tell you about it in the docs before we dive in. So this first episode centered around automated testing is going to be about like going through their docs. Then in subsequent episodes, we'll start looking at how to put to use what we've picked from the docs in a practical remote scenario. See you there. Bye. Sorry, not bye. I mean, let's get started. Okay, so writing tests. Uh, writing tests. The best way to test an application is by writing tests to make sure it behaves to clients as we would expect. Fedas make testing your application a lot easier because the services we create can be tested directly instead of having to fake HTTP requests and response. Actually, this is one of the things I like a lot about writing tests in Fedas.js. The fact that because this service are you can kind of take a service as a whole without having to make requests to that service and test the methods of that service directly, which is really cool. So um, I think one of the issues I faced when I first started learning unit testing for APIs was it was kind of difficult for me to figure out, okay, so if I take this API now, what am I even going to test for with this endpoint I'm making requests to and stuff like that. So it was kind of tricky. But the fact that I can get the code directly I want to test, like the class I want to test directly and test that directly makes a lot of sense. So in this chapter, we'll implement unit tests for our users and messages service. So if I go back to the code here, sorry, I was about to start Redis before, but we've not gotten to that part. So let me close up all this stuff just and narrow this stuff down. So if I go into the API, you would see that in the package.json, let me expand this a bit. So in the package.json, you would see this test, which basically just does like a using cross-env. Cross-env is installed as a dev dependency, so you would see it around here. So this is it. So which does like uses this cross-env to set like the environmental variable for this application to test, so that we can capture that when working. So and then once it sets it to test, it means that this configuration takes over. Whatever we put in test.json here becomes the ultimatum. So here you would see test, which basically runs npm run migrate and then runs matcha. If you try the matcha stuff itself, that one kind of focuses on like setting up like, okay, this is the test stuff you want to run. So and then it does like recursively go through like what is in this folder, sets the extension to .ts and then exits. So yeah, so for this one we want to kind of this practically the one we're using, and to do that let me just actually run this. I need to confirm that that's the only thing running. Good to know. So to do that, we can simply run npm test, and of course we need to cd into this folder. I keep making that mistake. So and boom, you can see it does this. Now note that this test actually calls this one because here you can see we have npm run mocha. It runs the first script migrate, which helps migrate whatever needs to be migrated, and then runs the second script, which is mocha. So basically all this stuff you see written out here, it runs that. So in fact, I feel like though it was Feathers that actually added it, but I feel like I could remove this and this stuff should still work. But I think let's add it so that even the migration will take note of that in case maybe there's something important about it. Okay, now we get this error in because we already have some tests that Feathers creates. So if I open client.test.cs, you would see we have this kind of password here, which right now we don't need anymore. So I'm expecting to get, I think TypeScript is still doing its work, so you should underline it by the time it's done. So while it's doing that, let's go back to the continue reading. So this should already pass. In our case it didn't because of course we've tweaked the life of this stuff. So let me confirm that this guy is actually recording this screen. Nice. Okay, so this should already pass, but it won't be testing any of the functionalities we added in this guide so far. In fact, I don't know what functionalities they added. I think it has to do with like a chat. It's a chat, basic chat application with like the front end and back end coupled together. So then test database setup. When testing database functionality, we want to make sure that the tests use a different database. Very important actually. So we can achieve this by updating the environment, the test environment variable with the following content. In our case, we cannot do this because right now I don't know what database is this. I think I've been saying it a number of times, but I've never actually had to use it before. And there's no part of the generation that actually reveals that this database exists. Oh, it's an abandoned project. I see. So meaning there was a time it probably existed and no longer exists. Maybe I'll be one of these people that will fuck this. But then looks like a cool idea though. But yeah, that's when I get to learning more about databases. So but for now, let's just we're not using this. Actually, we can't use it because that stuff doesn't exist. This document is quite out of date. So if I go to defaults, I can just check. There should be yeah, we see this SQLite stuff here, right? And it points us to like what the connection we are supposed to use is, and then stuff, because we are actually using SQLite here, but that's as though we are using Postgres. It would have been probably a URL, so it would have been like a URL, and then you can tweak that URL to your taste. In this case we have this, and actually I don't want this to tamper with the API.SQLite, so I'm just going to copy these and go into the test folder, the test file, and paste. So now that I paste it, I'm just going to do .test. Now I don't actually need to do any other thing, so I can remove every other ones if they are the same, because it's going to start with the default and then just pick. This is going to override whatever I set. So in this case I set 8998, not me, but you get it, gist. And then I set the connection to this. So once I do this, it means I've kind of set what database I want to use, in this case api.test.sqlite. Now coming back here, would have this will set up the NEDB database to use test/data as the base there. It seems NEDB is actually in memory database, so I get the gist. But that would make it kind of cool in a way. So well, I think I like SQLite. It's really good at what it does. In fact, it's even possible for me to just use SQLite for this stuff. Very possible actually. Okay, so so as a base directory instead of data where the node env this is set to test. The same thing can be done with connection strings for other databases, which is what we just did now. When using Git for version control, the data and this, okay, don't worry, this is NeDB centered. Then we also want to make sure that the database is cleaned up before every test runs. So in that case, we need to kind of install this and then set up a clean guy. I think we should have something like that. I've seen that before, yeah. Oh, that's for the compilation. But we already have that, this, okay, yeah, it's for the compilation actually. So, but yeah, we already have something like this, so we can just add the clean guy after start. We already have SHX, in case you are wondering what SHX is. So so in our own case, we want to delete this the api.test.sqlite every single time. Luckily, we are not using Postgres, otherwise that would have make it interestingly, like it will be as easy as this if we're using Postgres. So in this case, we want to delete this stuff. So in that case, what we want to do is to clean up the database. It's important when you want to test, you want to make sure that your test is not affected by any kind of external factor. So you want to make sure your database has no data. So it's the data it has is only centered around that test case that your code is trying to that your test is trying to test for. Okay, so we have this clean, and in this case, we can simply say SHX. Until date, I've never checked what the full meaning of SHX is, so let me do that here. So plus npm. So I know like what it's used for, but I've never really checked what it is. So in this case, it says portable shell command for this. Oh, that's not the full meaning, right? So it's a wrapper around shell.js. Nice. It's proudly tested with everyday since v6. Okay, providing an easy solution for simple this. You can install it as a dev dependency and then run commands as if you are using Unix commands, which is cool. Maybe I'll probably want to enroll this, like employ this whenever I'm writing scripts that needs to kind of make, but wait, if I'm writing script most times that needs to do the stuff and it does only file related this thing like this, like file system interaction, I just simply use bash. Okay, so yeah, but you get the gist. Now so we have this hashes aux. Oops. So I'm just going to remove api.tests.sqlite. But then one interesting thing is, what if it's not there? This is going to break actually if it's not there. So once I had that, it means that the next thing we are told is on Windows. Okay, yeah. So once we add that, we need to add it to the matcher command. So in this case, we can just put npm run clean, and so though if this fails, in case api.test.sqlite doesn't exist, it's gonna break the rest of the flow. How do I take care of that? Should be a way to check if stuff doesn't exist before we do anything. In this case, it works because, okay, it doesn't exactly fail here. I would normally call compile when we want to bundle. So I don't think we should have much of a problem then. So yeah, then this, so testing services, to test the messages and user services with all hooks wired up, we could use any REST API testing tool to make requests and verify that they return correct responses. There is a much faster, easier and complete approach, since everything on top of our own hook and services already provided and tested by FedAS, we can require the application object and use the service methods directly. We fake authentication by setting params the user manually. Uh, by default, the generator creates a service test file, which was what I was showing you the other time. If you go to this client, you see like this test file, and in this test file, you come across what's the issue now. I thought all this should have been installed. It's actually installed, so okay, so so here we go. In this case, you notice this is the test they've written, where they kind of created like a client from Axios. So Axios was kind of used to kind of create a client, and to do that, we call the REST. The REST function takes in a URL, and then call Axios, which basically creates like this. So these clients, we check if it's okay. This is for the clients, we don't really test for this guy except in special scenarios. So for the password, we don't need this anymore, because so we can instead just do create and authenticate a user with email. So this should be fine. Then so we have up.tear down. Okay, so okay, what else is missing here? Okay, I don't know, doesn't look like anything is missing. So normally the authentication flow looks like this. We have this data sent from the front end. We create a user. So that is when you are testing for the authentication, we have to first create a user in order to be able to authenticate that user, because basically this test is testing for authentication. And then we have this. So we have this const user this, which you extract from the authenticate method. Remember what we get back the that time from Thunder client, when we tested, or from the API to be more specific. So not this. I was expecting to get a result. Jeez. So the result gets deleted, and I was thinking that I'll just turn this like into the docs for this stuff. It doesn't have a way to create an example like Postman. It doesn't. Weird. Maybe it's in their premium tier. So so basically you get the access token and then the user. So you get it, then test if there is an access token, test if the user exists, and test if the password is not being returned. So that's like basically it. So in our own case, we cannot use password, we use min pass. So, and once we are done, we basically log the user out, because basically once you are done with whatever you're testing, you want to make sure that whatever you did to get to that point, to set up like what you need for testing that is undone. So in this case, we log the user out and then remove the user. So if I test this again, hopefully this does not fail. So if this does not fail, you should go to the next part. Okay, nice. Okay, one test failed, and I'm pretty sure it shouldn't be coming from the client, but wait, my assurance has been crushed. Thought we run migration how to create the tables. Is there something faulty with our migration? No, there isn't. So this says create an authenticated user with email. That is what we just checked now, was failing. Every other test passed because every other test are basically registering the service. Okay, so if I go to the services, you notice that we already have these two services tests, like for the two services we've created. You have this user.this, we just basically assert whether the service was registered as expected, and then we have the one for the courier, just same code. So we have this. Till now I kind of don't know why this is acting up like this. I don't normally get this. Is it possible because I have an API folder here? Because most times when I do stuff, it means this folder, it's this repository itself is only supposed to contain the API. Maybe that could be the case. Okay, so but yeah, we get a gist of like how test stuff works in this case. I don't know if I need to read any other thing, but let's kind of move that to the next video. In the next episode, we'll pick up from where we left and try to figure out how we can fix this stuff, because I actually like this test that has already been written for us. So I like it. This is like basically like an end-to-end test in a way. So yeah, I would like to kind of see like how we can do this. This is like a basic end-to-end test. For this one, you may notice like we have all these sets of tests that shows 404 JSON error if we make a request to anything. So basically that's like anything that is global, any test that you want to write that kind of is global, you do it here. For example, if you make a request today to the main page, it actually opens up like it opens up this index.html, so you can test for that too, in case we want it to open to maybe give back the client like the health of the server. We can also do that. So yeah, so that's it. In the next video we'll pick up from here and move on.